test page. Now, granted, you have to have it in debug mode for this to be turned on. But I mean, how many people accidentally deploy their applications in debug mode? It happens all the time, and it's a huge security hole.
So actually, I wish we had more time to devote to frameworks. Zane Lackey and Alex Stamos at ISEC Partners, they've kind of been, doing the circuit, doing a really good presentation on this. They basically ripped DWR, a new one. They attacked Prototype. There's a whole lot. The Fortify guys did a pretty good attack against some of these, actually Ajax endpoints. Jeremiah kind of pioneered that about a year ago. So, I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff out there, and the frameworks are just kind of starting to understand security and not really doing it right. There's no way the end user, the end Ajax developer understands it.
There's one more really important point in that when you take things like this and use it to cut down any unused methods to reduce your attack surface. So there was another really good example in that there was a college that had made an Ajax webmail type application, and they just took it from, it was SourceForge or wherever it was, just as is and piped it in. Well, if you look at the exposed server methods, which was easy to do just by looking at the JavaScript, you'd see that there were functions like invite new user. Well, this is pointless for a college website because everyone who should have an account already has an account. So again, this is probably an unused function that would be vulnerable if someone were to try to call it.
So, this whole concept, don't store secrets on the server. We didn't have a chance to show it. This actually came from a Macworld hack. And in fact, SPY runs a user conference each year. And a couple of months ago, we noticed that the third party we were using to actually register had basically client-side pricing. It wasn't. It was client-side pricing through JavaScript. The exact same thing we showed you earlier about being able to say, I want to give this price for the seat, and now, let me change it while you're actually processing, totally existed in the wild. Client-side pricing's 10 years old, thereabouts, I guess is when the CD Now case was, or CD Universe, and we still have it. It's crazy.
So all secrets must be stored on the server. There's just no way, and obfuscation here is not going to help you. We'd like you to obfuscate your JavaScript. It's a good idea, but it is not a defense in and of itself. Relying on that on itself would be security through obscurity, which we all know is a terrible idea. So include it as part of your defense strategy, part of a larger one.
We got to show this because this is fun. This is something we kind of built in-house at SPY, and we're pretty surprised because we got tired of trying to analyze obfuscated JavaScript code. It was very annoying. So you can't obfuscate it, right? The computer's got to understand it. The interpreter has to understand it. So we just went ahead and did JavaScript static analysis. So we've got... Let me go ahead and pull this up. Open with Notepad. So this is Google Suggest in all its magnificent glory. Have fun figuring out what a.value.ax parenthesis does. So we're going to go ahead and where'd the mouse go? Oh, there it is. All right. So the very first thing is we got to get some fun white space in here. So obviously, the first thing we do is try to make this thing a little easier to read. We've got a readout over here of all the JavaScript tokens. So we actually have tokenized the language. So you can name your variables whatever you want. You can't mask the fact that they're variables. We pull up all the variable names and functions that you're actually using. We got a list of the string literals that you're using. We see some things here that look like hex triplets. So they're probably doing some cascading style sheet manipulation, some background images, autocomplete. Microsoft XML HTTP, so they're obviously invoking Ajax, different things like that. And actually, we've got a sexier version that, unfortunately, I can't show you right now, where actually we can start right-clicking on variables and actually do full-blown stack analysis. Show me everywhere this variable is used. Show me if they rename it. Show me how it passes between functions. Show me how often, or which functions are called more often than others. Show me any type of operation that's applied to this variable so I can check to see what type of validation you're doing on the client. Things like that.
So again, obfuscation is great, but there are tools like this that will undo it.
Right.
Stop some of the script kiddies, and that's a good thing. Do it, but don't rely on it.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, we went from idea to that in about 2 days, so it's not really all that difficult.
What does script do in hyperfication?
So that is one that we pulled actually direct from the site that was hosting the sign up for the conference. And the scary thing was, it wasn't like we contracted them and they built us this site. This was one of those register your conference with us and we'll take care of the checkout process. They had thousands of conferences referenced or registered with them. Every single one of them were client-side pricing. So we started looking for shall we say, scandalous types of conferences that we might want to attend free of charge, and found a couple actually here in Vegas. So
again, the control flow manipulation we talked about, just like we store all the secrets on the server, you have to enforce prerequisite call logic on the server. If you've got a 4-step process, so hold the flight, or hold the seat, book the seat, debit the account, release the seat, if all these 4 things have to always happen in a certain order, then they must be done on the server. You can't expose each of them as a separate operation to the client. Now, what you're going to say to this is, well, then you can't really have AJAX, can you? Because it's a long operation. Well, you can. If the reason you're doing it is to provide small status updates, then just have one monolithic function and then provide a second method that can get called asynchronously to pull for status. This is your secure way to do that.
Exactly. Remember, you can't trust the client, and thus you can't expect the client to run the JavaScript in the way that you give it.
So the exposed administrative functionality we saw, it's important not just to lock down the page, but lock down each method. This is what we were talking about as part of the attack surface. It's not enough just to say, oh, you can't get to this page. You've got to check authorization and authentication on every method as well. And separate your script libraries according to their function. Avoid those monolithic libraries where possible. And finally, in the injection attacks, fix the injection attacks first. The underlying vulnerability here was not the client-side data transformation.
That's not a vuln.
It was the SQL injection. The client-side data transformation just made that much worse. So the first things first is fix your SQL injection. Whitelist validate your input, use parameterized queries. You've all heard us say this 1,000 times before. But what you haven't heard us say is whitelist validate the output as well. If you know that the format going out should be one field of a string, another field with an int, and another field with another string, then enforce that on the way back out. Don't just say, okay, whatever the result is, I'm just gonna send it back to the client without looking at it.
This is especially true if you're using data sets in ASP.NET, because it can put multiple tables into it. And so a lot of times it has to do with how the tables are alphabetized. And so you want to make sure that not only that one table got returned, but that one table is actually the table you were looking for in terms of columns and everything else.
So I know this is going to be an extremely unpopular suggestion, but as a last resort, you want to consider abstinence from AJAX. Only use AJAX when it's really necessary. Just because you can is really not a good reason.
Just because all your friends are doing it doesn't mean that you're ready for it.
Exactly. So if you've got applications that are asynchronous in name only, like you're making AJAX calls, but there's nothing for the user to do but sit there and wait for it to come back, that's probably not a good candidate for AJAX. Or if you're updating, 80 or 90% of your page with a partial refresh, probably not a good candidate for AJAX.
All right. So we actually are giving away these fun-filled T-shirts, and the puddle glows in the dark. I didn't, seriously, we didn't design these. Marketing came back to us and we're like, wow, we thought we took that to a level and you just blew right past it.
We were told we went right up to the edge of good taste and then crashed through that line.
So all you need to do, we've got a bunch of these AJAX, or these Spy Dynamics stickers and these little stop PA. We want you to take these and, in a non-destructive manner, take a photograph of it in a, shall we say, a creative place. We leave it up to you to define what creative is. Either come by the Spy Dynamics booth out there or send an email with the picture to nopa@spydynamics.com. And, oh, by the way, using this as the censor bar for the goatse image is not considered creative. We've already gotten some of those.
So everybody who turns one in gets a shirt, and then the one that's judged to be the most creative and best gets a video iPod in the last hour of the show. So that's pretty cool. Now, we would also be totally remiss if we didn't at least pimp our book a little bit. So we do have an AJAX security book coming out. The first half of this book is available as a rough cut on Safari right now, so please go up and buy it. And you can get a sample chapter of it by stopping by our booth and learn all about more premature AJAXulation.
Our book is right, or our booth is right out there. Actually, the person who had the stickers seemed to left, so unfortunately,
I think they're handing out stickers.
Oh, they're handing them out at the door. Fantastic.
So, is there any questions?
Everyone set? All right, great. Thank you.